Unsyndicated presents Off the Air with Sean the Legion.
Hi, so what is up? Glad you could join us this morning. Another edition of Off the Air. You remember this guy, a good buddy of mine. We talked Tigers last month, and now we're going to talk some Michigan State in particular. Lots of things going on. They're getting in, right? We'll get into that. But
that's the question.
Can we start with some happiness? And let me introduce my friend, Michael Bohenick. He is indeed my friend.
Hi, friend.
Michael.
We are friends. That's true.
So let's start with some happiness, because I know they're going to be mad today. There's going to be some mad, and that's okay.
Well, I'm here, so yeah.
You were in Venerable Mun Arena last night. What was that like?
The last 30 seconds of that game were arguably louder than the end of the 21 Michigan football game. It was fantastic. I mean, hanging from the rafters, standing room only. It was really cool. It took the whole family. We had good seats. I mean, it was awesome, man. It was a lot of fun.
We grew up in an era, Mike, I think both of us, and at different points in time as well. And even after you graduated from Michigan State, you legitimately could not get tickets to Mun Arena. And it was so sad. There was such a period of time. I know I've said this before, but I have to say it again. When I was doing some of the broadcasts on television up there, some of those crowds were downright depressing. There was a Friday night game. You had two icons. It was Wisconsin and Michigan State. And Mike, honestly, if there were 500 people there, people there, it was an act of the Lord. I mean, that's how bad it got. And we could sit here and talk about everything that Coach Nightingale has done for the next 5 hours. But to me, making that place the snake pit that it can be and bringing back that crowd and atmosphere, boy, you can't put a price tag on what that does for your program. I'm serious when I say that.
Yeah, it was cool because this fall they offered like a 6-game mini package. And I was like, you know what? We go to one game a year. My daughter's there now. I'm going to buy this, and, she'll go to a bunch of games. It'll be awesome. By the time I had already bought that, you couldn't get 2 tickets together in December. I mean, almost every single home game was sold out by that point. And it's been really fun to see, because I've been going to a game or two every year for the last 3 or 4. And getting tickets was no problem. There was never an issue. Like, we can get 4 together. We can get 6 together. No big deal. Different story this year. Much different story.
Oh, love every second of it. And you know what? This is a team. I think you and I were talking about this with the Tigers, if I'm not mistaken. People have in their mind that you have to take a series of steps. And if you did this, well, then surely next year that means that's going to happen. And that doesn't necessarily play itself out. And I'm going to say the same thing about Michigan State hockey. There were a lot of people that thought, well, give Coach Nightingale a couple years. Oh, this is a good, cute team. Why can't they make a run this year? When you look at what they have at their disposal, I'm serious. Yeah. They're solid on their back end. They've got depth up front, and they have an unbelievable goaltender. Why can't they make a run this year?
Well, you're bringing in top 10 NHL draft picks at this point, and that can change your program in hockey, especially overnight. Like you can find 1 or 2 guys, especially with the portal and everything like that. You got guys moving back and forth. You can change the entire program in a couple months, really. And
it is amazing. I know you know this, but I've been fortunate of doing some junior hockey for many, many years, whether it be in the OHL or with the NTDP and the USHL. And I'm telling you, the one thing that the average person doesn't understand is how guys that, to your point, Mike, they didn't have a chance at in the past. They didn't have. Right. Why would they go to East Lansing? Why? He's getting guys to come. He's getting guys to flip commits. He's getting guys from places that normally you wouldn't think of. And to me, that is what has me most excited. This could be a huge era for Michigan State hockey. And the fact that he decided to get a little extension as well, that is good news for everybody.
And I feel like that kind of flew under the radar a little bit with Nightingale extending. Like, it's just kind of assumed he's going to be around and he's going to continue the progression. And even a slight drop off. I mean, you're still you're looking like a premier program across the country, and that's awesome to see.
Isn't it great too? If you don't mind me saying, both of our daughters are freshmen at Michigan State, and the fact that the kids are excited about it, like. Yeah. My daughter asks me questions about the hockey team all the time. And like, we're playing Michigan next week, right? Yeah, we're playing Michigan next week. Yeah. Congratulations to the Wolverines. I got to get that out there. Coach Naranjo and the Wolverines. Not a lot of people thought they could do it. Should be epic at Munn next week. Yep. And I'm sure your daughter's the same way. I mean, there's an excitement about Michigan State hockey again.
Yeah. And, it helps that you got to pour your excitement into something, because ain't much else going on up there to be super excited about right now. So
you are such a pro. Did you hear that segue?
Hey, I'm just saying.
Did you hear that segue? Good morning, Tammy. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Mike, before we get into that, and for the record, we both think that Michigan State is going to sneak in. Barely. We both think that they're going to sneak in, but I know. Don't worry. Take a deep breath. I'm gonna wind you up in just a second. Todd, if I may, I want to talk about our friends Jeff and Mike at the Wealth Advantage Group in Northville. Look at those handsome fellas, Mike Husak, Jeff Husak. My financial advisors, my friends, my former next door neighbors. And if you are ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those two guys, the brothers, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized, expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients through all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world, it is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with a couple of experts. Those handsome fellas right there. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. So good stuff there. Michael said, great show, listening to you while watching my daughter play in the finals of her hockey tournament at Notre Dame today. Nice. Keep up the great work. Good luck to your daughter. Fantastic. That's good stuff. Mike, what is not good stuff is what's happened to the Michigan State basketball program in the last couple of years. And let me get this out of the way right now, because I'm going to say it. You're going to agree with this, and people are still going to yell at us and get mad. Tom Izzo is a treasure. I hope they put a statue up of him. I hope they put up multiple statues of him. He's had a fantastic career. There's no doubt about that. This is nothing personal against Coach Izzo. He's been wonderful to me every time I've called and asked him to come on or chat or information, all that stuff, okay? But, Mike, we've kind of become a society now where if you say, hey, wait a second, this isn't good enough, you know the drill, and we joke about it privately. Well, why do you hate Coach Izzo? Well, why do you hate Michigan State basketball? Yeah. This has nothing to do with Coach Izzo. Is a great man. He's done a ton of great things on and off the court. Right. But I'm not doing my job, and you as a fan aren't being honest with yourself if we can't ask ourselves, what's happened the last few years?
Yeah, it's you can have these conversations, and I saw somebody kind of put this pretty well. You kind of have the conversation with these things already established. He's a great guy. He's a perfect ambassador for the university. He's somebody you want behind any program, really, from a aesthetic standpoint, from having these, conversations about college kids and seeing what's best for their interests and things like that, telling kids to go to the draft when they have questions, whether they should or not. I mean, that's the type of guy he is. But at some point, it's okay to separate that stuff from the actual results on the floor. And that's the part that people get hung up on. It's like, well, are you saying you want him fired and you want him gone? Or just wait till you see what happens when he's gone? And it's like, okay, that's fine. That's all well and good. You can't predict the future either. We all assumed this team would be really, really good and be projected as a potential 1 or 2 seed. And that's not what's happening. And it hasn't happened for a long time now. And said this to you earlier, are things getting better or are things getting worse? And it's hard to watch this stuff now and think, okay, he's going to flip a switch and things are going to be fine. When you watch 4 years of this stuff and things keep getting worse and you continue to have the same problems and you're watching the product on the floor and it's not good. That's the other thing. Like, you're not losing games to the top tier teams in the country. You're getting worked at home by Iowa, Ohio State, James freaking Madison in the home opener. I mean, you had people popping off after game. Oh, it's just the first game of the season and things will be fine and blah. No, they won't. No, they won't. It had been 3 years up to that game. And people are sitting there excusing it, saying, oh, it's okay. They'll be okay. You lost at home to James Madison. I'm sorry. That's not okay. No matter how you cut it. We're not, freaking Northwestern here. We're, your cute little program. You got some undervalued kids, some 3-star kids doing their best and working hard. No, screw that. You're a top 5 recruiting class. People, predicted you as a top 4 team in the country, and you come out and lose that game, and people are mad at you for saying, what the hell's going on here? This is unacceptable. Where are your standards? It's gross.
Mike, hearing you talk about that, and I know you and I were talking about this just before we went on the air. I'm sorry. I can't help but think, and I think Michigan football fans would readily admit this now, okay? I can't help but think of Michigan football fans during the Harbaugh and Hoke, the Rich Rod and Hoke era, and a little bit into the Harbaugh era, because it was always about the big talk at the beginning of the season. And then at some point in the season, they realized that it wasn't going to be, and it was always looking ahead to next year. And it was trying to justify what they didn't do in that particular season that they were in, and always looking into next year. And whether Spartan fans want to admit it or not, that has been a running bit. I'll let you in on a little secret between a couple of friends. This guy and we've done that for 4 years running now. Oh, wait till next year. Do you see what they have coming in? Oh, this team's a perennial top 5 team next year. I mean, this has been an ongoing bit. And I think no more so than this particular year. This was a year that it seems to me, Mike, people were looking to this year for 2 years. And when you start the season
for sure,
as a top 5 program, okay, there are going to be some people that are going to have the audacity to say, well, now, wait a second. All right. This was a top 5 program.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? And then the justification start. And as Todd said, as a Michigan fan, the late Lloyd era. And that was something we saw from Michigan football all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has crept in to the fan base with this basketball program, Mike. I really, truly do. And I can hear people saying, I can't believe you're bashing Tom Izzo. The one thing that Mike and I have in common above anything else is we both like to speak in fact. This has nothing to do with Tom Izzo. This is looking at past tense events and saying, this has been a trend for about 4 years running now.
And I'm guilty as charged too. I said the same thing, middle of last season. I was like, okay, you don't have all the pieces yet. You're bringing in a top 5 class next year. Next year's the year. It's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking more like never, because I was one of those people too. Okay. We're a 500 Big Ten program. Things aren't looking great, but once he brings in these top flight recruits, your Bookers, your Cohen Carrs, we're going to be just fine. And they're not. And that's why all the talk about, oh, he didn't go to the portal to get a big man and all this stuff. I agree with that stuff. It's deeper than that. There are bigger problems here than just bringing in one 6'9" guy that can catch a basketball, because they don't have one. And it's not just about that one guy. You've got problems all over the floor. You've got obvious leadership issues. You've got a senior heavy program right now that unfortunately has learned how to lose games. They don't know how to win games. And that's why it bothers me when people write off these losses to James Madison as, oh, you played Arizona close. You played Duke close. you had a couple moral victories against Purdue. Screw that. Win the game. Win the game, and then we can have that conversation, because how many years have been going now? You don't win those games. I've been hearing, oh, we lost close to Duke. We lost close to Arizona for 4 years now. I don't care about that. It doesn't matter to me. And now we're seeing exactly the result of that on Selection Sunday when you're biting your fingernails. Oh, we might not get in because you lose those games, because you lose to Arizona, because you lose to Duke. I don't care about that. Go schedule a bunch of cupcakes and kick their ass in November, December. Maybe get your 6'10" freshmen some freaking playing time during those blowout wins against cupcakes, and you're a different team today, but you don't. You sit there and you run the same guys out there in November, your Sissokos and your Coopers. They get dunked on, and then you sit there in February and March. Oh, well, Booker's not ready. Well, why isn't he ready? That's your fault.
Yep.
That's your fault. The guy's playing 7 minutes. He's playing 7 minutes against Oakland. Okay. If you want to get the kid some run, put him in those games. Because guess what? You started the season 4-5 anyway. So what do I care if you lose by 3 to Arizona or you lose by 15? Doesn't matter to me. It's still a loss. So, oh, Booker's not ready. Okay, I don't care if he's tripping all over himself in November. If it makes us better in February and March and he's ready to play, then great. He's still not ready to play. And that's to me, that's a real problem, because you're looking at a program now where you're bringing in the quote unquote talent, but you're not using it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you can sit there now when you're on the precipice of a play-in game for the second time in 4 years, by the way. And you weren't using all your bullets in November and December against the bad teams. I mean, I'm at the Indiana State game. What was that? December, January? You were down 5 to Indiana State at home with like 5 minutes left.
But the Sycamores are good. How many times do we hear that? I mean, today, James Madison's a really good basketball team. You're at home. These are teams you should run.
I don't want to hear
stop
that
it.
It's not even about that. This team is losing consistently in the conference. You're 41 and 38 in the Big Ten over 4 seasons. You're losing to teams that you're out recruiting by 40 spots on the rivals rankings. You're losing consistently to Fran McCaffrey and Iowa. I mean, the guy nationally is considered a joke of a coach. And they're running you off your home floor with a 3-star center freshman who's averaging 6 and 10. We couldn't find a 3-star kid to come in, some corn-fed mule to come in and average, 8 and 5. And you got your center position scoring 2-3 points a game. It's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
You just made me cringe because, Mike, like we were just talking, isn't that what we heard from the Michigan football fans? And you and I were on the front line for that, talking about all their little recruiting grades and all their little stars and everything. And how did that work out for them? Couple comments, and then I have to talk to you about our friends from Legacy. Oh, look who chimed in, Jebediah Frick. Oh, sadly, next year will be much, much worse unless something changes. Todd, you bring up a good point, something I wanted to hit on. Izzo saved so many seasons with a surge at the big tourney, then carried them deep into the tourney. Now it's expected he'll pull it together. Mike, to your point, and I'm going to tie those 2 points together, okay? January, February, Izzo. We all know that. And the 2005 team in particular was a team I never saw that team saving. The Paul Davis year. Remember the Paul Davis year?
Yeah, of course.
Never saw that team making a run. Tip of the cap. It was awesome. The issue is exactly what you just said. That was a team that, as the season progressed, found a way to grind out those games. A 63-63 game with 4 minutes left would invariably turn into a 72-69 Michigan State win. And unfortunately, what we've seen in recent years is Michigan State almost consistently find a way to lose those games, those types of games that we all expected, that sprinkle that old Izzo magic and everything's going to happen. And it's just not happening now.
I would have to look, but I think, based on recollection, I think that 2005 team, I think they were a 5 seed.
Yeah, I think they were.
We're not talking about making a run from the 9 slot.
100%.
Okay? We're talking about a team that, they had all the hype in the world in 05, but you were a 5, I think, and you made it, you made a run to the Final Four. And now the last 4 years, your average, let's say today, all things fall as planned and you end up as a 10 in the play-in game because all these at-large bids are being snatched up. Your average seed over the last 4 years is a 9. You've got a 7, a 7, an 11, and now possibly a 10. Okay.
Oh.
That's an average of a 9. You're not doing anything from the 9 hole. Get out of here. And this is that's the preseason nonsense that I have a big problem with. You're scheduling these games against really tough teams. You're making your team travel all across the country. And this whole theme and the narrative where, it's going to make them better over time. It's not. It's not making them better over time. You can tell the team's getting worn out. They're suffering injuries. You're trying your best to push these kids to win those games in November and December. And then by the end of the season, you got a broken down Tyson Walker. Okay. You got guys that are running on fumes. You got kids that have completely lost confidence in themselves, like Jaden Akins. I don't know what the hell happened to that kid. He's cooked.
Pete.
He absolutely cooked. All right. He's shooting like 20% from 3 over the last month. And I'm watching the games. All right. These are wide open looks. Okay. He's not getting double teamed out there and jacking up prayers. These are wide open looks within the offense, and he's bricking them. So again, it's much larger than just the center position. Would it be nice to have a center? Yes. Yes, of course it would. How many more wins is that one player really going to bring you? 3, 4, and then we're having the same conversation. It's still a disappointment no matter which way you crack it. Let's say they, won 3 or 4 more games. They're staring at, we're in as a 7. We're in as an 8. Is that still disappointing this year? Hell yeah, it is. Absolutely. We would be having virtually the same conversation saying this is not good enough. And not to mention, the tournament aside, you're not even competing in your conference. I'm not asking you to win a national championship every year, but what I am asking you, the bare minimum expectation of this program should be contend for a Big Ten title within 2 weeks of the end of the regular season. 100%. That's all I want. Yep. If you miss out by 2 or 3 games to a good team like Purdue, whatever. You're down in the dregs with Nebraska. Nebraska is a program comparable to you right now. What? What the hell are we talking about? Nebraska basketball? That's a joke.
Hey, let
Northwestern hammering you. Go ahead.
No. I need to take a time out so we can talk about our friends at Legacy and get back to this, because you bring up a point about the Big Ten I want to expound on. But first, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? They're great guys. Give Joe or Alex or Dave a call. I was just exchanging some texts with Joe the other day. Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, and they provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Call and get your free quote. Just put them to the test. I bet you'll get good results. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and help save you some money at the same time. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. What do you have to lose? Give these guys a call. Get your quote. Let them help you with your home, your cars, life insurance, save you some money, Medicare enrollment, business insurance needs. They got you covered. Call them today, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Michael Bohenick, Sean Belegian, off the air. Mike, I want you hit on something that is near and dear to my heart. This is not a great Big Ten, okay? This is not one of the best conferences in the country. I know in these parts we all want to exaggerate how good our conference is. It's been happening in football for years. Whether you want to admit it or not, I don't give 2 shits. I don't care. It's such a dumb, overplayed argument. And the same thing could be said for basketball. And to your point, Mike, to go 41-38 in this conference with the likes of Iowa, with the likes of Nebraska, as it were, that is something that really jumps out to me, man.
Disappointing. It's depressing to see a program that was once among the elites. It really was. And now you're battling to beat bad teams at home. I mean, that senior night, I don't know if you watched any of that against Northwestern.
I didn't.
What a debacle. I mean, those kids came out totally listless, no energy, and you had to escape at home against Northwestern, missing 2 starters. just to get into the tournament. I mean, we're talking about just the dregs and the mediocrity of the conference. And that's where you are now. And you can talk about all the past success you want. That has no bearing on what's happening there right now. Mateen Cleaves is not coming. He's not walking through that door. All right. Mo Pete is not walking through that door. There's something missing there. I really struggle with the group of assistant coaches that he keeps bringing. Doug Wojcik, Mark Montgomery. These guys can't find jobs anywhere else. That's why they're here. These guys are Izzo disciples, and his coaching tree, by the way, is complete garbage. I mean, if you look at the guys that have gotten jobs from that staff, they've done literally nothing. Nothing. I mean, this goes back to the Brian Gregories of the world, Stan Heath, Dwayne Steve. I mean, these guys don't do anything. They go to mid-major programs and they lose there. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what we're missing. I don't know if they're stagnant. I don't know if it's obviously there's a key component there where it does seem like Izzo is not willing to adapt his coaching style to the modern game. And I think, unfortunately, when the game changes as much as it has over the last few years, guys like him are going to suffer as a result. I mean, I struggle to listen to people talk about the fact that you're going to regret it when he's gone. Program's going to fall off. UConn has won 5 national championships in the last 25 years with 3 different head coaches. Through scandal, through all kinds of nonsense. 3 different guys. Dan Hurley comes in overnight, flips the program, wins a national championship, and they're going to be favored to do it again this year. Why? Why can't we be UConn? What does UConn basketball have that Michigan State does not have? You can't answer that question. That's the part where I really struggle. Why can a Drew Valentine, let's throw that name out there, from Loyola. If Drew Valentine was coaching this team, would they have 13 losses?
I don't think
Would they be worse? How would they be worse?
I cannot stand, this, I cannot stand, and this goes back to the Lions fans. And you and I have laughed about this. You only get it when you have to get it, when you have no choice to get it. I can't tell you how many people, especially with Jim Caldwell, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Jim Caldwell wasn't working. Matt Patricia was a disastrous hire. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make Jim Caldwell any better, okay? Right. And I always said, how many times did I say this in the last 5 years? I can't wait until the Lions get good because I want to hear just one person, wax poetically about those glorious Jim Caldwell years. Just because the next guy perhaps doesn't work, and let's hope that's not the case whenever coaches decides to leave. Just because the next guy doesn't work doesn't mean that it still wasn't the right decision, because this, in its current form, as we've talked about over the last 4 years, 41-38 in the conference, 13 losses 4 years running. It's not working right now. Period. End of story. And I know people are cringing. They don't want to hear that. They're going to talk about next year. As well as I do, one of my favorite bits. If you win a tournament game, people start wagging their finger, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you got to say now? God forbid you win 2. Oh, I think you owe him an apology. They were a top 5 team to start the season.
Yeah, I don't know what banner. I don't know what banner we're hanging in the Breslin for beating Marquette last year. You can let me know if that's what we do now. And that's what a lot of fans will tell you. Well, we're keeping the streak alive. A lot of programs would be really jealous to have what we have. I don't care about other programs. I don't care about Iowa. I don't care about Northwestern. We're Michigan freaking State basketball. You should expect more than this. And there are people out there that are saying that's loser talk. And it is. That is loser talk. That's you trying to justify, trying to come to terms with reality and what's actually happening here. Oh, we're keeping the streak alive. I don't give a goddamn about this streak. Miss the tournament 4 years in a row if it brings me a national title. I couldn't care less, because you can't take that away. You're sitting there telling me, oh, we made it. We scraped in a play-in game. I don't care. Miss the turn. If I was offered today a national championship right now, but you miss the tournament the next 5 years, sign me up. I am in.
1,000%.
I am absolutely in. So that's where the stand. And it's like you said, it's the moving goalposts. Oh, well, we still made it to the tournament. Who cares? Who cares? We're going to go play in Dayton on Tuesday night. Awesome. That's a great time, man. So much fun. We're going to go choke against UCLA as an 11 seed.
Mike, it's the Red Wing playoff streak. Like seriously, who cares? Like, I would hope that every Red Wing fan out there now would acknowledge that. And quite frankly, it ended up hurting the franchise in the long haul, thus making this rebuild that was inevitable even more arduous. But what does that mean? Like, are you sitting there today going, man, you know what? At least I can rest on, we've got this streak. I don't know how that brings anybody joy or happiness. I really don't. It's a stupid arguing point for social media, for all the guys that want to get on arguments and go, oh yeah, well, look at our program. But what does that mean when you bring UConn into the equation or other teams that have found a way to win? It doesn't make any sense to me, man. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, when you zoom out the graph and you look at the last 4 years, this is the worst 4-year stretch in Izzo's career by far. And that includes him beginning. It includes the beginning of his career at Michigan State. And there are big problems, and it's scary. I don't necessarily agree with Jebediah Funk that they're going to be worse next year. I think things are going to turn out in a pretty similar fashion. I think you're still going to lose your 11, 12 games. You're going to have a total overhaul. A lot of these kids are going to be gone that have dragged this program down to where it is right now. I hate to say, you do need a fresh start. You do need it. You need a total, all right, let's forget the last 4 years. Let's move on to something different, because I would rather watch something new and lose 11 and 12 games than to watch the same movie 4 years in a row and expect the ending to change, because it's not going to. So let's go to a different theater. Let's check out a new flick. Maybe it'll be similar, but at least it'll be different. At least I can watch it and say, okay, maybe these kids now can grow and I can watch them get better over time, because a lot of these kids have gotten worse over 4 years. AJ Hogarth, worse. Jaden Akins, worse. Matty Sissoko, worse. These guys have gotten worse. There's no development there. And that's the part that I'm really worried about. You haven't put a kid in the NBA now in a while. And that's kind of scary with the types of talent that you're bringing into that program. And these kids are getting busted up by, like I said, those 3-star kids from Iowa. You can't stop a 3-star kid, their center freshman, going off for 10 and 6. And our guys are doing nothing. They've been in the program now for 4 or 5 years.
Let me tell you about the Rockers very quickly. Congratulations to our Motor City Rockers heading to the playoffs. Fantastic. And they got a big one today. Yeah, it's St. Patrick's Day. Are you looking for something to do this afternoon? How about a St. Patrick's Day celebration at Big Boy Arena? The Rockers will be sporting vibrant green specialty jerseys, adding an extra dash of flair to the occasion. Take advantage. You've still got time. How about this offer? 2 tickets, a bucket of beer for just $40. It is the perfect way to enjoy the game with friends and family. So check it out this afternoon as they take on their rivals, the Port Huron Prowlers, 2:05 at Big Boy Arena. The Motor City Rockers are playoff bound and in action this afternoon on St. Patrick's Day. Mike, a couple comments. Our buddy Josiah Funk said, I still think that Izzo follows Nick Saban's footsteps and resigns at the end of the year. I've heard a lot of people say that. I don't know. I'm not even going to venture a guess. I haven't talked to Coach Izzo, I think, since the first week of December. I think that's the last time I talked to Coach Izzo. I have no idea. I've heard a lot of people who are close to the program suggest as such. Do you have a read? Do you have anything that makes you feel one way or the other?
I've heard the same. Obviously, like fourth party sourcing on a lot of this stuff that I'm hearing. So take that for what it's worth. But logically speaking, with Steven finally being done after 10 years, I think.
Did he score a basket?
He did.
Okay.
And that's what's important, right? That's what's important at Michigan State. You want to make sure that
happy.
Yeah, him and Nick Sanders getting their buckets. That's what this year was about. But with him being done, he's got his grandkid now or whatever. Logically speaking, I mean, if you're putting the pieces together, it does make sense. And he's come out and said, like Vic said, He doesn't want the whole farewell tour. He doesn't want that whole situation. He wants to go out like Saban. He said it himself.
Mm-hmm.
The tea leaves were there, and maybe he was putting that into the ether and just kind of saying it out loud. Maybe that is the plan. I don't know. But you got, if that's the case, you got to have a good successor lined up. And I hope he does have a say in that. And it's somebody with ties to the program, and it's somebody under 45 years old. I mean, we got it. If you're going to change over, you got to bring in some new blood. You got to bring in somebody that's energetic and excited about the new era of college basketball and how to move these chess pieces around the board in a way that haven't been done here in a long time.
This is a prime job, and this is a job that should attract people, and with the resources at their disposal, I'm with you. Listen, if you wanted to, and they're not going to, as well as I do, it'll probably be somebody with ties to the family, but who wouldn't want this job? I mean, for a lot of the success that we just talked about. Okay. And Mike, I look at Michigan State and I look at where Michigan State has been. And again, it's factual, it's reality, it's not taking shots. And you say to yourself, okay, this is a prime example of a program that could go like this with just a breath of fresh air, of fresh air, because it is really one of those places that still recruits itself. Todd asks, is it because UConn football doesn't get any attention? Basketball is the number one there. That might be part of it, that somehow, some way, Jim Calhoun turned UConn into a basketball school. I go back 30 plus years. I still don't know how that happened, but getting the right guy in place and giving him time, certainly that has created what is the UConn dynasty.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think among this fan base, there is a lot of poo-pooing about bringing in a young guy from a mid-major type of program that is winning now. Oh, we can do better than that. We can go sign a big name coach from a big time program. Izzo was a grad assistant. Okay. He was an assistant here under Judd for 10 years. Mm-hmm. He was nobody. So again, you're trying to look at things a little bit differently than the traditional college basketball environment of 20, 25 years ago. You don't need a guy that's winning at Texas Tech right now or wherever to come in and help the program. You can find a local guy with local ties from a mid-major like a Drew Valentine or somebody of that ilk that can come in. He knows the area. He knows the players. He's got experience with the program, and just bring in some new blood. Give me some excitement. Give me some energy, because that's the other problem. There's no juice here. There's nothing going on. There's nothing to be excited about right now. And going into next year, there's not a ton to be excited about. Like, obviously, I hope Booker does turn into the, top 10 NBA pick that we're all hoping he does. But aside from that, there's really nothing to look at in your crystal ball and do what we did this year and say, oh, all right, next year, next 2 years, they're due to do something special. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of the same of what we're looking at now, struggling to make the tournament, 7-6 seed top end, not contending for a Big Ten championship. And that's not good enough. It's just not.
No, it's not. I know we were talking about the hockey team earlier, and of course, big game at Munn next Saturday, Michigan State. I mean, what more needs to be said? But Jim said, who reaches the wings first, Sebastian or Trey? I don't know this for sure, but I can tell you this part. I know there are two guys right now, currently, and I'm not mentioning their names, that have an opportunity to sign with an NHL team, like now, that want to come back to Michigan State next year.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm not saying
I've heard the same. Yeah.
I'm not saying, I know two, flat out. And if people think real hard, you can probably figure out who I'm talking about, because I know these guys, but literally have the opportunity to sign that NHL contract when this season ends, and they wanted to come back to Michigan State next year. I don't know where Sebastian's at. I don't know where Trey is at. I don't know what, his agents are saying or anything like that, but I think they all know they have something pretty good going on, and that's a special group of kids. And I have always been consistent with this, Mike. I am never going to be that guy that tells a kid you should do or should not do.
Sure.
I don't know your circumstances. Take everything into equation. Best of luck to you. If you move on, I give you a tip of the cap. If you stay, great, go green. That's the way that I look at it.
And there's a lot left to be said for this season, too. If they finish their goal and win the national championship, maybe that changes their mind. Maybe they're like, okay, I did what I needed to do. I'm out of here.
Good point.
If they fall short, maybe they're eager to come back and finish the job. I think there's still a lot to be said in that arena.
All right, before we get out of here, let me tell you about our friend Lindsay Broadwell. We'll get some final thoughts from Mike, but when it's time for you to move, whether you're buying, you're selling, sometimes both, you need to contact the right people. And the agent that I recommend, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and that everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. All right, Mike, I think to close this out, we both think they get in, right?
Yeah. I think the way things fell yesterday, unfortunately, they're still going to get in, but they're a play-in game now because
they
of
might
all
be
these,
playing,
all
no
these
doubt.
at-large bids are toast. You've got too many. NC State wins their tournament. Oregon wins. I mean, you've got a bunch of at-large bids that are being snatched up. You're getting knocked down that ladder on the at-large situation. You're looking at another Dayton game, and that's 2 in the last 4 years. That is something that, hell, if you ask somebody, like even 6 years ago, would Michigan State be in one play-in game in the next decade? People say, what are you talking about? No chance. They're about to be in their second play-in game. It's
Mike,
gross.
That's the type of stuff. If I said that in November, you said that in November, we would have been crucified. I would have been told to stick with college football or stick with hockey. Isn't there a hockey game going on?
Yeah.
Mike, you're just a hater. You know, all those message board people that love to crucify you and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've been spot on the last 4 years, man. I don't think there's any debate. Now, is somebody going to say that to you? Of course not. They'll just move the goalposts. I mean, that's the way things are today. Yeah, it never happened. Those conversations never happened.
Yeah, well, it's like you and I say, people don't get it until they get it. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because you're trying to talk to somebody that doesn't have anywhere near the same perspective that you do or any logical rationale of what they're watching. It's all based on hope. And hope is not a strategy, my friend.
Jim Schwartz, his lasting legacy, when he dropped that quote, I mean, hope is not a strategy. It's absolutely true. We got to get out of here, but first, let's say it again right now, because there's a reason I'm doing this. I love Coach Izzo. He is a treasure. He has put a statue up for him.
Yes.
And Mike, as sure as we're sitting here, mark my words, people are going to comment after the fact, after watching that. I can't believe you guys were dogging Coach Izzo like that. And there's no dogging. I mean, this is reality. 13 losses 4 years in a row. Worst 4-year stretch, 41-38 in a not great Big Ten. Nope. Those are just the facts, man. I'm sorry.
He's not a deity. He is not a deity. He is a man. And, you know, I think he would admit himself he's a stubborn man. And sometimes that bites you in the ass when it comes to this type of stuff. If I may, real quick, that Rockers game that you talked about.
Yeah.
Do they have a barber shop in the locker room? Is Shawn Michaels going to throw Marty Jannetty through the glass? Because the breakup of the Rockers was devastating. I can't go through that again.
It was unbelievable. That was one of the greatest heel turn moments. It really was. All right. Can I ask you something? Piper's Pit. I want you to rank them all. Okay. Ready? Piper's Pit.
You're putting me on the spot.
Brutus, the barber shop, or Brother Love. If you had to rank them 1 to 3, how would you rank them?
Oh, Brother Love, number 1, for sure. I mean, you're talking the original manager, the original manager, The Undertaker. I mean, you can't beat that.
He loved you. Can we do an old school wrestling show one day? Could you imagine the shenanigans from that?
Hell
maybe we'll get an answer to the question that has haunted us forever. B. Brian Blair. That's all I have to say.
What did he do? I don't know what he did. I don't know why Sheik was so upset of a mid-card tag team guy. What did he do? He's a nice man.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for watching us. Mike will catch up soon. In the meantime, have a great day. Enjoy Selection Show. See ya.
Thanks, brother.
Off the Air with Sean Baligian, featuring Sean Baligian and Blake Matrazak. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matrazak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Play It Loud by Jam Studio. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Off the Air with Sean Baligian on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.